What up, y'all? It's Dev and Chicken. We're both here. We both love Magic, and we're both from Mtg. Hey, how's it going? Now, first things first. Importantly, let me know how you feel about the audio quality of this video, because I'm trying out a new mic, which is really my old mic. I'm just taking the snowball out of retirement, seeing how it works, see if it's better than the 4 times more expensive microphone that peaks all the time and you guys hate it. But perhaps even more important than that, and yes, it's a different cat now. Igby's here. I have powers, but maybe more important than microphone stuff and my cat powers is we got some subject matter today, y'all. Now, I have been wanting to put out a video before Dominaria United preview season starts, which is like tomorrow by the time you see this, right, by the time it's on YouTube. So I don't have long, and I had a couple of things queued up, like the top 10 budget cards that survive rotation, top 5 dead deck archetypes that I'd like to see return in standard, you know, a couple of interesting little content tidbits, but that was until I woke up this morning and was blessed with the content, because Mark Rosewater put out his teaser for Dominaria United this morning. Now, he does these every season, and we tend to try to cover them every season too. These cryptic messages, these enigmatic, puzzling words from Mark Rosewater. What do they mean? We try to piece them together and stuff, and it's always kind of like low-key one of the most fun things we do every season. So let's dive in tomorrow's teaser and see what we can find out about Dominaria United.
And I'm your favorite Magic Channel's favorite Magic Channel. Best believe that the professor go bananas for my deck techs. I come correct like a porn star, slicing up all these other suckers with my sword mark.
And we're back. Hey, like and subscribe. Check out the Patreon, but we really got to jump into it. These videos are always way longer than I think they're going to be. I always think it's going to be a quick, breezy one. We spend 35 minutes on it. I don't know what the runtime of this is. Let's try to keep it right and keep it tight, though, and go ahead and jump in and talk about these things. Now, first things first, some things that you should expect. First up, Marky Mark says there's going to be a new evergreen counter, which is like pretty exciting news to start the thing with, right? But what could it possibly be? I have almost no idea. I have some small ideas. It's tiny-brained ideas, but nonetheless, I think this might be mechanically tied to the idea of completion. And that's what, when the Phyrexians do to you, what they did to Antamio. They make you a machine-ish demon machine. They make you like them. You're just one of them. Google gobble. One of us. And I think that's probably what this counter is going to be all about, but I don't know what that could mean mechanically. I don't know what that would do to complete like a creature or a planeswalker. Maybe just buffs its stats or loyalty, but I think it's probably going to be deeper than that, if I had to guess. But one of the best ideas I've seen posited for this particular bullet point is, I believe a Reddit user was the first place I saw this, that maybe they'll use counters now to represent animating artifacts, for instance. I've seen lots of cards throughout Magic's history that turn artifacts into creatures with power and toughness equal to their mana cost. We see the ability all the time. It's pretty wordy, so one thing they could do is just make that whole ability a counter, and then they don't have to print a million words onto a card every time they print that ability. So I could see that happening. It just sounds right to me, and if it's not something that they have planned for this set, it's something they probably should do. Good suggestion, Reddit user. But let's go ahead and jump into number 2 here, because this one is pretty nuts too, and it's caused a lot of speculation today. Number 2, a popular planeswalker gets a reprint. Now, that doesn't mean the character is returning. That means the card itself is getting a reprint. They don't usually reprint planeswalkers into standard. So what could this be? I think the most popular speculation today, if you haven't seen this yet, you haven't been looking, is that it's going to be Liliana of the Veil. I want to say that it might be. I don't want to say it probably will be, but it's not going to be like Jace the Mind Sculptor or anything like that. And I'm not really sure what else it could possibly be. You know, a lot of people have this idea that a lot of other planeswalkers they could reprint in this slot are a little too powerful, but that is also true of Liliana of the Veil, I would say. My outside bet for this one is a version of Karn. Some Karn, or no, we've seen a couple at this point, some Karn or another, because people forget that he is also a planeswalker who has reprints that you could reprint, and it wouldn't be too bad. So Liliana, Reddit speculation, Karn, dark horse candidate. I could see it happening. Now at this point, Maro starts to get pretty wacky and also jumps the gun a little bit, because text that appears on cards is supposed to be a whole different section of the teaser. But for number 3, he says a blue card with destroy all creatures. Now, he went on later to confirm that it is a mono blue card, not like a blue-white card or a blue-black card. is a mono blue card with destroy all creatures, and we have seen some number of these. It could probably be like a mass polymorph or whatever, mass pongify, maybe destroy all creatures. Your opponent gets a bunch of 2/2s or whatever, It could be something like that because blue never has like good board wipes. I mean, we already have a 4-mana blue board wipe in the format, and he's like, no, play it. It's not very good. Consuming Tide, I believe it's called. I played the card and still don't remember the name. So that's how bad that card is, and I'm hoping that this blue board wipe is a little better than that. Now, starting with this next one, I'm going to do them slightly out of order, not too far out of order. Don't worry. I just want to do this one before I do a different one. You'll see what I'm talking. It'll make sense in a second, but the next one that I want to talk about is an ability word that didn't start as an ability word will return, and the popular spec on this is domain, and I have to agree with that because I've already called it out. I did a Dominaria United predictions video like 6 weeks or 2 months ago. It feels like forever ago at this point, and I said there that I think domain might be returning, and I think this is a pretty good clue towards that. It doesn't have to be domain. There's other things it could be, but I think domain is probably what it's going to be, and that's backed up by what was supposed to be the next bullet point that I was supposed to talk about originally, which is a 5 mana value creature that can be a 10/10. I think this is a domain creature. I think this is something that you can cast it for, Wooburg, and it's a 5/5. But when it comes into play, you can kick it one of each color, or maybe, it gets +1/+1 for each of the basic land types you control, which would be straight up domain. So, it could be a 5 mana 5/5 that can be a 10/10 if you have all the basic land types. I'm pretty sure that both this one and the last bullet point are pointing hard towards domain, and I would really like to have that back. We've gotten plenty of, 5-color deck breadcrumbs over the last couple of sets. Now we have triomes in the format and all that, so it's fairly easy to make a 3-color or 5-color deck, and especially if we get some, more dual lands or, God forbid, tri-lands, it's going to be very, very simple to construct a 5-mana deck, and I think domain would be very, very sweet. Next up, 3 Weatherlight crew members are going to show up in this set. Now, he's actually clarified this one too to say 3 original Weatherlight crew members. Now, there's 2 ways to interpret this. That could be original, as in from Weatherlight, Mirage Vision, well, really Weatherlight, and onward into Tempest, Stronghold, Exodus. The crew that we know from when we were kids. You could interpret it that way, or you could be a super wonk about it, right? Like, you could be the biggest, pedant about this and say the original Weatherlight crew doesn't include some of the people that we would assume are on the Weatherlight crew, right? Like, for instance, Squee. Squee was added later. He's not a member of the original Weatherlight crew. And I would imagine Squee is probably a person that a lot of people are speculating. Person? A goblin? Sure, a person. Damn it, Squee's a person. This is one of my best friends. Squee is probably one that a lot of people are speculating on because he's immortal. There's also Karn, who is functionally immortal. So they're kind of shoe-ins, right? And Karn, I believe, is on the original team. So you got that. But other ideas here would be Joyra. Also note, do I want to spoil something here? You guys mind if I spoil something? I'm sorry about. There's going to be spoilers in a day, and you're going to love those. You're going to watch all those. I assume you don't care. But in case you do care about spoilers, skip to this timestamp. But 3, 2, 1. We already know that Urtai is in this set. We saw him in the story. I assume he's going to be. If they spoil that Urtai's in the story and then he doesn't show up in the set, what are you doing? So I assume Urtai's going to be a card in this set. Urtai has been completed. The story makes it clear that Urtai died many, many years ago, but he's now been reanimated effectively by the Phyrexians. So we know Urtai's in the set, and he might be, I don't know, actually I'm not sure that Urtai was an original member of the crew either, but any member of the crew that was original could also be completed by the Phyrexians. So Krovax, think about that. There are a number of people this could be, whether it's Joyra, Hannah, Miri, Teferi, obviously. I believe he's in the original crew as well. So, there's a lot of things this could be. Next is a rare cycle of +1/+1 granting lords. We've seen a lot of uncommon anthem effects over the last few sets, and some rare, yes, but a lot of uncommon anthem effects for tribes and stuff like that. So, Blade Stitch Scab and the Vampire one, stuff like that. A lot of uncommon anthems. So, I'm interested to see what a whole cycle of rare anthems might look like. You can really juice the power of a rare anthem effect, and it might not even be for tribes. It might be for different colors or something like that. But I'm hoping it's tribes here. That would feel very Dominaria for it to be tied to creature types. And I'm going to love that. I mean, just the idea that we might get a sort of, tribal support for 5 different tribes in this set, or at least a cycle of different tribes, is pretty exciting to me in and of itself. But again, even if it's not specifically tribal support, that could be exciting too. Enchantment creatures get +1/+1. Creatures of a certain color get +1/+1, and on and on and on. There's lots of ways that you could flex this out. But even if all it really amounts to is Tribal Anthem, that's awesome. I'm happy with that. Next is a card that grants poison the moment that Finn rotates out of the format. I mean, you can still do it in Historic, Explorer, Pioneer, all that stuff, but we'll see if the card is actually good enough to make Finn a real deck in those sort of more eternal formats, right? But one way or the other, I can get kind of excited about a card that grants poison, but not too excited when I'm not sure how many other cards are in the format that care about poison. Especially when Mark has said specifically a card, singular, that grants poison. It's not super excited for Standard, but for other formats, I can see how that could be very exciting. On to this one, which I haven't seen anyone really speculate about, oddly, but in some ways it could be the most hyped thing on the list. A new artifact with Lotus in the name. So this is probably Trickery. If I had to, it's probably like a 5-mana artifact. It taps for 3 mana or something, it's probably something. Well, that's already Gilded Lotus. The thing I'm describing already exists and is a fine card, actually. It's not bad, but still. It's probably not going to be all it's cracked up to be. Let's just put it that way. But if they make, I don't know, he would just say like a reprint with Lotus in the name if it was going to be like Lotus Petal, and they'll never reprint that in a Standard, I promise you. They won't even reprint Lotus Veil in a Standard. Mark my words. But, I don't know. They kind of sideways reprinted Lotus Veil a few sets ago. Didn't really do much in Standard. But it was like the Lotus Veil that has hexproof, that thing. It's probably on screen. If I'm a good content creator, it's on screen. But don't take that chance, though, Dev. But either way, this is probably not much. But I will hold out hope that it's a 2-mana artifact that taps for 2 mana. Actually, that's all it has to be, right? That would be really good. If it was just a 2-mana, any deck can play it artifact that taps for like any color mana or something, like that would be hype. That would be really good in Standard, and well past the power level they print cards for Standard in now. So, it's probably not going to be that. I can't imagine that unless they have completely lost their minds that this is anything too remarkable. But we'll have to wait and see. That's the second time I've said it. I won't say it anymore. And finally, for this section at least, a character that players have been requesting a card for years gets a card. I think this is probably Aaron Compassion. So my guess is Aaron Compassion, but I have also already gone on record as saying I hope it's Merit Lage, but I don't think it's Merit Lage. I really don't. I really don't think that they're that cool. So it's probably Aaron Compassion, and that's still pretty cool. All right, next, here's some rules text that's going to be showing up on your Magic cards. Now note that we already know what one of the blue cards says, because again, he jumped a shark on that one. But either way, as long as Enchanted Creature is legendary. So what's that going to be? And that's kind of an interesting one, right? I mean, an aura that you put on a creature and it just kind of does normal aura stuff. But you put on a legend, it does really cool stuff. And there's lots of design space they could do with that. As a matter of fact, they've already done stuff. There was like the sword, the equipment that cares about whether or not the creature... Actually, I think it just equips a legendary creature for cheaper. The thing that I'm thinking about. But still, I like when they explore that design space. Special things for legendary creatures. It's cool. You may exile an instant or sorcery card with mana value X or less from among them. So I would assume this is pay X mana to look at the top X cards of your library, and then exile an instant or sorcery X less from above them, and you can just play it. That's probably what it is. But it's like red, blue, X. So you're always paying more for the thing you're actually getting than you would have paid for it if you just dry cast it. But at the same time, if whatever this card is instant speed, the card that I've made up in my head that it almost certainly is, then the card might be like halfway decent. But I would bet some butter and bread that it's probably something like red, blue X, look at the top X cards, take an instant or sorcery, cast it. It's probably that. Next up is exile each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. That's a pretty good rules text. That's just not bad. How much does that cost, We already have Culling Ritual in the format, which destroys things with mana cost 2 or less. Yeah, it's non-land permanents. And it doesn't see play, so this probably needs to cost less than 4 mana, but considering you're exiling everything, it probably won't. So, can't wait to see this one, but it could be playable, or it could be super not playable. Next is enchantment creatures you control have. Now, you might have thought it was weird earlier when I said, enchantment creatures get +1/+1. It could be one of the lords, but no, it could easily be. You see right here that this set cares about enchantment creatures. There very likely will be more of those in this set. I don't know why a card would say that if they hadn't set up the draft environment to pay that card off. So I assume there's going to be more enchantment creatures in the set, which I actually really I've always liked enchantment creatures. Anytime you can just get more than one important card type out of one card, I'm kind of a fan of that. So cool. Next is if X is 3 or less. It's kind of hard to talk about this one because it could be completely uninspiring, right? But what I like to think this might be is an X spell that actually pays you off for not having a buttload of mana to put into X. I only have 2 mana to put into X. Well, hopefully this spell will give you a little bit of extra oomph if you only have a couple of mana to put into X. But once you start having 8 mana to put into X, it doesn't need that extra oomph, it just wins you the game. So I kind of like that idea from a design perspective, just X spells that if you don't have all the mana in the world, they do a little something extra. That might be cool, but that's not guaranteed to be what this is. It might be if X is 3 or less, it gets worse. That'd be terrible. Next is for each opponent who doesn't, that player loses 2 life and you draw a card. So cool little commander playable, probably right here. Probably. Against even just one opponent, this could be decent depending on how aggressively costed this is. But that's the thing I hate about these these rules text parts of the teasers is depending on how much that costs, it could be very good or very bad, almost no matter what the rules text is. If this card costs 2 mana, it's ridiculous. If this card costs 7 mana, it's completely unplayable. So why are we even here? In this case, I'm not too sure how good this could possibly be and what the rest of the card could be, right? It's probably just each opponent may sacrifice a thing, it's a planeswalker, or each opponent may sacrifice a creature or something. And whenever they don't, you get stuff. So it's kind of like an Invoke Despair type thing. I could see, especially with the way they've been theming cards like that lately, there've been a few cards in black like that maybe this is just another offshoot of that. The next is instant or sorcery card with mana value 1 or 2. Now, for some reason, this strikes me as a graveyard ability. Maybe it's a reasonably cheap, well-statted creature. Maybe it's some sort of sideways, not reprint, but supposed to remind you of a Snapcaster Mage or something like that, right? Maybe it's got kicker. It very likely has kicker. I bet it has kicker. We already know that ability. That mechanic is in this set. So, it's very likely. Again, I shouldn't say things like very likely. Just to my mind, it could easily be. That's how you use English correctly. To my mind, it could easily be a variation on Snapcaster Mids that allows you to kick it and cast small instant or sorceries from your graveyard. Next is pay any amount of mana. It could be anything, It's literally every Magic card. I'm not too sure, obviously, what this could be alluding to, but is it even that exciting of a phrase? I mean, we saw it on, Leyline Tyrant. When Leyline Tyrant dies, you may pay any amount of red and hit a thing, and no one cared. No one cared about Leyline Tyrant. I think we tried to care, and then we just always learned the lesson that 4 mana 4/4 flyers are just bad. So we didn't play it. So this could be okay, but we have also learned the lesson from Leyline Tyrant. That card you have to pay a decent amount of mana for, and then if they leave the table, you pay any amount of mana. Typically bad, because your opponent will just kill it while you're tapped down from having played it, and then you can't pay any mana. So, maybe this is just another card like that, or maybe it's not. This next card is vehicles you control have crew 1. Now, this is maybe just like an enchantment that says this, or like a creature that has the ability, vehicles you control have crew 1. But for some reason, in my mind, this is if you get 2 of the Weatherlight captains on the same table. Like if you control both of them, or if you control all of the Weatherlight captains or whatever, then vehicles you control have crew. I don't know why it's that in my mind, because it's almost certainly not that. But what it probably is like one legendary member of the Weatherlight crew that has that ability, right? If it's Hannah, like she's a navigator, you know, like, or if it's, you know, Cisse or something. How would that? Yeah, it could be. It could easily be Cisse, right? So like it could potentially be a Weatherlight crew member that's just like a really good pilot, right? And suddenly they're so good that all your vehicles can be crewed with just one. They're not only good at crewing vehicles themselves, but they can teach other people to crew vehicles really easily. They're just basically a driving instructor. Next is where X is the number of legendary creatures you control. That's kind of neat. I liked when they did, in the last time we did Dominaria, they did this sort of legendary creatures matter theme, and it seems like they're doing that again, and I like that. I think that's kind of neat, you know? A payoff for playing a lot of legends in your deck is always fine. It's going to suck to lose Bard class. We're losing Finn. There's a card that cares about poison. We're losing Bard class. A set cares about legends. Wizards just like play historic. It's like, okay, I'll try. But still, it's like a lot of synergy for stuff that's rotating is just kind of lame as a standard player. But still, I can see this being really, really cool. Hopefully they do better legendary mechanics than like legendary spells last time. Remember those? I hated those. So I'm all down for legendary mechanics, and I just hope they're cool this time. And finally, let's zoom through some creature types in this set. First off, there's Dryad Warrior. How is that special? I'm not too sure. I guess it's a green warrior. And I don't think we get all of the green warriors. It's probably going to be green. It doesn't have to be, but it's probably, you know. So maybe it's green-red. Maybe it's Gruul, and that's what makes it a Dryad Warrior. It's a 2-drop Dryad Warrior. That's definitely what it is. That's probably not what it is. But either way, there's also Phyrexian Horse. We're gonna get a horse in this set. What could this be? Am I missing a famous horse that the Phyrexians may have like completed that I don't know about in Magic history? No. We also get an elf archer in red. He specified that this is in red, which is kind of neat. It's neat. Nothing wrong with that. Man, it's cool. Elf Archer, maybe it's just a 1 red mana, but it's Elvish Archer, right? A 2/1 first strike, and that's it. Could be. What else? Oh, we get a Lurgoyf. We get a Lurgoyf, guys. So what if it's Tarmogoyf? Or what? What if it's just Lurgoyf? Just reprint Lurgoyf, right? Could be, but I'm imagining there's going to be a take on a thing that cares about the number of creatures in your graveyard, and those cards haven't been super strong lately, to be honest. But a good Lurgoyf could be... I could see designing a very powerful Lurgoyf, but most likely this is just fan service. But there's also a human core soldier, which is neat. I wasn't too sure if those two species could like produce offspring together. I mean, they're both humanoid, right? But I wasn't sure how that worked. I mean, I know that I don't know how Dominaria and like species work. I don't know. But I guess humanoids can have babies with humanoids. They can be with whoever they want to. I don't care. Love is love. But when it comes to actually birthing babies, I didn't know. It makes perfect sense that they can. I didn't know. So excuse me. Excuse me, princess. But yeah, human core soldier. Watch there be a human core already. Watch it. Am I dumb? Maybe. But yeah. Aside from the fact that, human core, neat mashup of creature type. There's really not much to, it could be anything. There's also an elemental demon, which is just that's a sick combination of creature types. I think we can all agree, but it doesn't really tell us much. It does, actually. I think a lot of people are speculating on what this could be, but it could be so many things that I don't really have an opinion. An elemental demon could actually be a number of legends that we've seen, but next up is one that I've been waiting to get to, because this is one that I'm pretty sure I can call. The next one is a legendary frog beast. It's a legendary frog beast. That's awesome, and it's probably Yargle. It's probably, Gitrog monster or whatever. People have been speculating all kinds of different stuff, but it's Yargle. It's Yargle, and that could actually be sweet. Like even if it's just like what Yargle was the last time. It's just like huge power, low toughness, mid-range casting cost or whatever. Like that could be halfway decent for a deck like Fight Rigging. Right? Like you need like a 4-drop Yargle with 6 power. it could work for fight rigging. So I'm excited to see Yargle back. He's not Phyrexian. He's not an artifact creature, so I doubt like the Phyrexians have completed Yargle. But could you imagine? We would be in trouble if they managed to complete Yargle. But you can't snargle the Yargle or something. There's probably a combination of words that works there and rhymes. But I'm not. I can't think of it. There's also an Elf Artificer. We have just met one in the story. That's probably who it is. I forgot this character's name. Because I just kind of really breezed through the story these last couple of days. Trying to get as much of it as I can. But every time I do that, I'm like, how long is this story article? Either way. We did just meet an Elf Artificer in the story. It will be that person. Viashino Warlock. Legendary Viashino Warlock. Awesome. That's all I really have to say. Sweet creature types. I like Viashinos, like a lot. And I like Warlocks. So, jam them together. You got a dude or a lady, perhaps. I'm going to let... Is there a lady Viashino? Have we seen a lady Viashino? I'm sure they exist. Otherwise, how do they procreate, right? Talking a lot about procreation in this Magic the Gathering video. Anyway, the last one is probably the one that he saved for last for a reason. Phyrexian Merfolk Wizard. All right, so this one does include the type Phyrexian, so you know for a fact that this person is completed. But I don't know who this is. I can't... Every time I try to think of a legendary Merfolk, I think of like Sig. But Sig is from like Lorwyn. So I just cannot... I know that like, okay, like Murkwater exists, but like who leads Murkwater? Murkwater doesn't even exist in Dominaria anymore because the Plane of Wrath doesn't really exist anymore. It got overlaid onto Phyrexia. Oh, but if Wrath got overlaid onto Phyrexia, that means there's probably people from Wrath. I mean, obviously, in this set. So, I don't know. I'm getting way ahead of myself. Tatiova? Is that a thing? It is a thing, and she was in Dominaria. It might be Tatiova. Hey, I think I might be onto something. I think I may have stumbled onto the correct answer here, but who knows? Just let me know. If there's got to be somebody I'm missing besides Tatiova. There's got to be. It's got to be. So just, I feel like it's going to make me look silly. But I mean, how many times have I looked silly on this channel? We're still going strong. So there's like a huge name that I'm missing here. Like, hit me up with it in the comments section. That'll be a good way to raise engagement. Let me know basically on any of these bullet points. Like how they could go, anything I didn't mention, how you think it's going to be, you know, what these cards are going to be, what the characters are going to say, all that stuff. This is always a pretty hype time in the season, and we are one day away from preview season at large. So make sure that you join us Thursday night here on the channel and every day during preview season for previews. One of those days during preview season, at least, I'll be on the Twitch streams. Twitching away live, doing previews for that day. So make sure you follow over there at twitch.tv/spmtgdev. But make sure, too, that you're subbed here. You hit the bell for the notifications and all that, because preview season is a day away. It is no longer a drill. We are finally going to see some more Dominaria cards, and I want you to be here for that. So do all that stuff, pitch over, and I am donezo for this one. So make sure you let me know how you felt about it, and I'll catch you cats later. I'm Deb from The Place. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love and be kind.